Okay, ready? Redwall. We're in part 2, chapter 19. Chicken Hound was having one of his sniggering fits, even attempting to dance a little jig. He had been left to his own devices. The old fool of an abbot and his stupid devoted band of creatures were all outside, shoring up the gatehouses, drilling, fetching, carrying, and generally being good and useful. What a crowd of ninnies! With a sack on his back, the wily fox roamed from room to room. The Abbey was his oyster. Hmm, this is a nice green glass vase. Why, hello! What a lovely little silver plate. My, fancy leaving a beautiful gold chain like you all on your own. There now, I'll just pop you all into my sack. Don't worry, Uncle Chicken Hound will take care of you. Sniggering delightedly, the fox trotted along the corridor into the next room. More and more small valuables and family keepsakes belonging to the mice and their woodland guests vanished into the thief's sack. He sniggered uncontrollably. Imagine all the hard work and fighting that Cluny was going to have to do just to get at all this, and here he was having first choice. He was Chicken Hound, master burglar. He had outlived Selah, outwitted Cluny, and pulled the wool over the eyes of an abbey full of mice. One day they would speak his name as the Fox Prince of Thieves. Chicken Hound paused to admire a handsome pair of brass nutcrackers. Oh, yes, very elegant indeed. Into the sack they went. He trotted down the stairs into Cavern Hole. The tables had been laid for afternoon tea. Stuffing and gorging, he moved from place to place, choosing only the tastiest morsels. On his tour of the dining hall, he collected a good quantity of cutlery and some fine antique cruets. Anything that did not suit the young fox's taste was smashed or vandalized. Milk was spilt on the floor and bread trampled into it. Candles were broken and vegetables squashed against the walls. Chickenhound shouldered his sack and turned his attentions to the kitchen. He booted the door open and walked straight in, slap bang into Friar Hugo. The fat old mouse was bowled completely over. The unexpected fright sent Chickenhound dashing back through Cavern Hole with the outraged friar's shouts ringing in his ears. "Stop, thief! Stop the fox!" Chickenhound bounded up the stairs into the great hall. Behind him, the friar, having regained his feet, puffed along, raising the hue and cry. "Stop, thief! Come back here, you villain!" With great love and care, Methuselah was putting the final touches to his repair of the tapestry. Only a very sharp-eyed observer would be able to tell that it had once been torn. The warning shouts caused him to stop what he was doing. He turned to see the fox racing towards the door with Friar Hugo trailing far behind, shouting for all he was worth. Methuselah had only to move a few paces and he was blocking the doorway. Bravely he held up a frail paw at the oncoming fox. "You young blackguard, so this is how you repay our kindness. You are far worse than your wicked mother." Chickenhound swung the loaded sack with both paws at the old gatehouse keeper's head. "Out of my way, you doddering old fool," he panted. The heavily laden sack struck Methuselah a crushing blow. He collapsed instantly on the floor and lay still. Chickenhound froze momentarily. The sack of loot clattered from his nerveless paws. Friar Hugo halted in his tracks. The fox stared down at the pitiful crumpled figure. He had not meant to hit him so hard. "Murderer! Oh, you barbarous creature! You have killed brother Methuselah!" Friar Hugo's cry galvanized the fox into action. He grabbed the sack and fled from the abbey. The fat little friar fell down on his knees, tears coursing openly down his plump face. He cradled the sad, small bundle that had once been the wisest and oldest mouse of Redwall. Chickenhound sneaked along, keeping close to the Abbey. He slunk swiftly across the grounds to one of the small doors in the massive outer wall. The murderer had to get out into the woods before Hugo regained his senses enough to raise the alarm. Wrestling wildly with the stout bars and bolts, he managed somehow to open the small iron door. Without a backward glance, the fox bolted off into the mouse-flower woodland. As he ran, the Joseph bell began tolling out the alarm. Chickenhound's confidence grew as he raced through the woods. He sniggered. Daft old fool, served him right. He should have gotten out of the way. Hadn't he realized that he was facing Chickenhound, the overlord of all criminals? Pressing deeper into Mossflower, he paused and listened upon the wind for sounds of pursuit. Faintly, he could distinguish certain noises. Whoever it was seemed to be traveling at a breakneck pace with little regard to the obstructing brush or foliage. The sound of snapping branches and undergrowth being trampled grew nearer. The fox's finely attuned sense of smell told him that there were two creatures on his tail. One of them was a hedgehog, but the other? Chickenhound's legs began to tremble. His heartbeats echoed in his ears. There was only one creature in all the wood with that heavy, unmistakable scent. Constance the badger. Instinctively, the terrified fox looked wildly about for a place to hide. Running was out of the question in his present state of panic. It was as if some dark force had heard his silent plea. Not 10 meters from where he stood was the ideal refuge, a hollow in the base of a dead oak. There was space between two thick roots, partially covered by ferns, and Chickenhound slung the sack down the hole and dived in after it. To his surprise, he found it quite large and dry, with thick carpet of dead grass and leaves. It was dismally dark, but still, it was the best place at a moment's notice. He would be quite invisible and safe from detection. Let them try and find him now. With Ambrose Spike trailing in her wake, Constance crashed through the woods. So great was the badger's anger and grief that she was oblivious to any notion of stalking or tracking. She barged along straight through anything that stood in her way, the heavy striped face a mask of cold fury. The hedgehog stayed behind Constance. Those huge blunt paws were ready to tear some creature into doll rags. No power on earth would save the murderous fox if Constance caught him, but the badger's retribution was not to be. Quaking with fear, Chickenhound held his breath as the woodland juggernaut thundered by within a couple of meters of the hideout. He listened hopefully as the path of destruction trailed off into the distance of Mossflower. Once more the woods grew quiet. Chickenhound finally exhaled a long sigh of relief. Once again the newly self-titled overlord of crime had outsmarted a couple of mere animals. Who on earth did they think they were? When word of his daring exploits got around, other creatures would come to him. Foxes, perhaps. Yes, he could see it all. Chickenhound at the head of a band of robber foxes, plundering and thieving wherever the whim took him. Of course, he would change his name to a title more fitted to his position. Red Flash or Night Fang or maybe Mouse Death. Yes, he liked the sound of that. Mouse Death. His band of minions would admire him, telling each other tales of his astonishing deeds, convinced that the mysterious Mouse Death had always been an infamous thief, unaware of his humble beginnings as Chickenhound, son of Selah. As he crouched in the darkness, the young fox decided that the coast was now clear. He could venture out again. Reaching behind, he felt for the sack that contained his first solo haul. Before he left, he wanted to fondle his treasures once more, to reassure himself that they were an auspicious start to his new venture. In the gloomy hideout, his paw reached out and felt something. It was not the sack of loot. Asmodeus. That evening, the Joseph bell rang out a message of sadness and grief for Redwall Abbey. Mice and woodlanders sat about the stone floor of the great hall, each creature with its own sorrowful thoughts. 2 Redwall mice dead on the same day. Jess Squirrel sat with her head between her paws. Mr. Squirrel had taken the inconsolable Silent Sam off to bed. Jess had explained fully to the abbot and the council how she had witnessed Matthias's fall from the roof with the sparrow. Instead of falling straight down, both creatures had been swept out of Jess's line of vision by a huge gust of wind. Where Matthias's body lay now, nobody knew. As soon as her feet touched ground, the squirrel had gone about organizing search parties. They had scoured the area until the light became too bad to continue, returning after fruitless hours spent searching Redwall grounds and Mossflower Wood. The compassionate Father Abbot consoled the sad squirrel. Jess, it's no fault of yours. There was not a thing that you could have done, my friend. The fall was so great that no creature could have survived it. Tomorrow we will search again. Then we must bury my old companion Methuselah. Poor mouse, he never did anything to deserve such a cruel fate. The abbot pointed to the tapestry, shaking his head. See, my old gatekeeper's last good work. He restored Martin to his place of honor. Methuselah was the gentlest mouse I ever knew. Oh, what a tragic waste of 2 lives. One who spent his years in search of knowledge, the other cut down before his tree of youth had a chance to blossom. Cornflower spoke up. She was dry-eyed and pale, her paws tightly clenched. Father Abbot, the loss of Matthias's life was not a waste. It was a tremendous act of bravery and self-sacrifice. He died trying to aid Redwall and all of us in the struggle against the forces of evil, as did his friend Methuselah. I am sure that this is the way he would wish to be remembered in our hearts, as warriors and heroes. There was an instant murmur of approval from all present. Overcome by sad events, the defenders left the hall, some to do guard duty, others to their beds. Constance remained sitting on the floor, her face expressionless, the mighty paws clenching and unclenching. Brother Alf rose and stretched. You'd best get some sleep, Constance. The badger stood up wearily and rubbed her eyes. No, thank you, brother. I couldn't sleep a wink at a time like this. You know how it is. Brother Alf sighed deeply. He knew, having watched Matthias since the first day he arrived at the Abbey gates, a woodland orphan, always polite, willing, and cheerful. But now. Come with me, then, said Alf. I've got work to do. There's all the fishing nets to be laid for the night. Perhaps you'd like to come along and help me? Glad of the chance to do something, the badger agreed. She and Alf strode off, talking of old times. Do you remember that big grayling that you and Matthias caught? Constance said. Brother Alf chuckled. Do I? Matthias wouldn't be satisfied till that fish was landed on the bank. I was all for giving up, but not him. Constance nodded admiringly. Aye, that fish fed the whole Abbey. I remember because I had 3 helpings, 2 less than that spiky waste-bin Ambrose. Strolling leisurely around the bank of the Abbey pond, the 2 companions gathered up the nets preparatory to spreading them upon the water. Brother Alf went further along the bank, looking for floats. Constance was about to sit down at the water's edge when she heard Alf calling, Constance, look, down here! There's a sparrow! The badger ran and joined the mouse, looking to where he pointed. Sure enough, half in and half out of the water was the body of King Bull Sparrow. With a great splash, Constance waded into the shadows and dragged the corpse up onto the mossy bank. It looks as if he's been drowned, brother. Quick, get some help and bring lanterns. Hurry. The badger thrashed about in the water. Why, oh why hadn't the search party thought of looking in the Abbey pond. Help arrived swiftly. Out of the way, Constance, the rest of you keep those lanterns high. With hardly a ripple, Winifred and the three of her otters slid into the water. As she swam, Winifred issued orders. Spread out and dive deep. We'll quarter the pond between us. I'll take the south corner. Tense moments ticked by. A crowd of creatures lined the banks. All that could be seen was the still, dark water, broken at intervals as the sleek form of an otter surfaced and dived again. A cry went up as Winifred appeared, towing a still shape. Willing paws dragged the otter's burden back on the bank. Shaking herself like a dog, Winifred panted. Look what I found, half sunk in the water over there. It's a good job the rushes held him up. Creatures crowded around, all asking the same questions. Is it Matthias? Is he dead or alive? Constance pushed her way through the limp, sodden figure. To the limp, sodden figure. The abbot and Cornflower were close behind her. Abbot Mortimer appealed to the onlookers. Give us some room there. If you really want to help, then stand back, please. Someone give Cornflower a lantern. Good, Mouse. Hold it up. Obediently, the crowd fell back. More lanterns were brought forward. The abbot worked feverishly, resuscitating, levering, and pounding the prone form of Matthias. Cornflower voiced the question that was on the mind of every creature there. Excuse me. Oh, Father Abbot, is he alive? He doesn't seem to be moving. The otter clamped a damp paw about her shoulders. Hush now. The abbot is doing everything in his power. We will know soon enough. Brother Alf pushed through, carrying something. Winifred, one of your otters has just come up with the sword belt and scabbard. He found them near where Matthias was. Bring them forward, said Constance. They may be of some help if Matthias opens his eyes. You never know. The abbot beckoned urgently. Cornflower, give me that lantern, child. Quickly. Holding the lantern glass close to Matthias's nose and mouth, the abbot was rewarded by the sight of a faint mist that appeared on it. He lives! Cornflower, Matthias is alive! Bring blankets, get a stretcher. We must get him to the Abbey. Without a word to anyone, Constance lifted Matthias gently as if he weighed no more than a feather. Carefully, the big badger clasped the young mouse close to the warmth of her rough coat. The crowd formed an aisle on either side of her as she strode swiftly to the Abbey. Lanterns bobbed about in the darkness like fireflies as the great Joseph bell tolled out a message of joy and hope to Mossflower. There you go. Oh, and 20. Let's do 20. It's quick. The new day dawned in a haze of soft sunlight. It crept across the countryside suddenly to expand and burst forth over all the peaceful woods and meadowland. Blue gold tinged with pink, each dewdrop turned into a scintillating jewel. Spiders' webs became glittering filigree. Bird songs rang out as if there had never been a day as fresh and beautiful as this one. The extravagance of nature's glory was completely lost upon Cluny the Scourge. His one good eye squinted upwards through the smoke of the morning campfires. Ha! It's going to be as hot as the hell's furnace, but at least it won't rain, he muttered to himself. Under the impatient eye of the warlord, Cluny's horde gulped down a hasty meal and scurried about, picking up weapons. Suitably geared for battle, they quickly fell into ranks. Cluny's personal armorer put the final touches to his chief's war apparel. With the tip of the standard, Cluny signaled to his captains. Darkclaw, Frogblood, Fangburn, Cheese Thief, Scumnose, and Mangefur scrambled into their positions. As yet, Cluny had not chosen a new second in command, though he had let it be known that any of his followers who distinguished himself in the coming battle would receive immediate promotion in the field. Kilkenny the ferret stood alongside his chief with a drum that he had made from an old water butt. He had unofficially appointed himself drummer cum soothsayer. The ferret watched Cluny intently, for the chief was going to speak. He banged the drum, calling the horde to silence. Cluny lifted the visor of his war helmet and stared out across the waiting horde. "This time there will be no mistakes," he yelled, "and there will be no retreat. We stay, even if it means putting Redwall to siege. We stand firm. Anyone who takes one backward step is dead. Anyone who disobeys orders is dead. Anyone who does not fight tooth and claw with all of his might is also dead. That is my promise, and Cluny always keeps his word. Hear me. All we face is a lot of peaceful mice and some local woodland creatures. Defeat them, and I will give you rewards you never dreamed of. The enemy are not trained fighters like we are. They're not natural killers. There is not one among them who can lead as I lead you." At the center of the front rank stood a rat who had been wounded in the first encounter at the Abbey. He whispered out of the corner of his mouth to his comrade in arms alongside him, "Huh, leads us my foot. Last time we attacked he stood well out of the way, back in some meadow." The sharp ears of Cluny had caught what the unfortunate soldier had said. The warlord leaped down from his rostrum and seized the trembling miscreant, booting him forward into plain view of the army. "See this traitor?" Cluny shouted. "Here's a rat who doesn't think I lead my horde. Cluny the Scourge sees and hears all. Watch now, and let this be a lesson to anyone that dares doubt me." The wretched rat soldier lay shaking on the churchyard path. A hush fell across the entire horde. He stared beseechingly into the merciless eyes of Cluny. "Oh, please, Chief, it was only a joke. I didn't mean to." Crack! The powerful tail whipped expertly out, slashing across the rat's face with its poisoned metal war barb. The army looked on in horror as the stricken victim shuddered and lay dead at Cluny's feet. Ignoring the slain soldier, Cluny the Scourge pushed his way roughly through the horde until he reached the cemetery gates. It was going to be a long march to Redwall, burdened as they were with the battering ram and all the paraphernalia of destruction. They would have to camp overnight by the roadside, and the great attack upon Redwall would take place early the next day. There was to be no secrecy. For maximum effect, the army must be seen marching boldly up to the very gates of the Red Abbey in full array. Cluny shook his standard. As the ferret's drum thundered out, he roared madly, "On to Redwall! Smash the gates! Kill! Kill!" The shimmering heat waves from the road reverberated to the shouts of the horde. "Cluny! Cluny! Kill! Kill! Kill!" So, next time, chapter 21. Until then.